Eden Cause here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. P.S. Just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a psychological empath, meditation master, dimensional healer, all the things to help you within this ascension. To learn more about me, visit me at EdenJustBe.com. And let's get this party started. Oh, man. Eden Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warrior Network. Episode 109, Greatest Hits compilation number 3, and with people all over the world. 3. And watching some of these snippets, because I compile the snippets as I finish episodes, it is really neat to watch where this podcast has gone and how deep it's gotten. Okay, even in this, we start out talking about enemas, and we go to light language, then dimensional palmistry, and the reincarnation matrix. And there's so many great people. How many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 guests that are featured from the likes of Jayme Price, Steve Noble, Debbie Solaris, and the wonderful Kevin Hoyt. All right, let's what do you say? We get started, shall we? Let's go. Episode 85, Detox Specialist, Shannon Wallace. Okay, and I do some goofy, just because. Okay, and then I get ready. And a lot of times I show this because, I like what you're doing. I like what you're doing. Woohoo!
An enema or coffee enemas? Do you ever do coffee enemas?
No.
Oh, they're amazing for you.
No, actually, this colon hydrotherapy, I've done, I think, one enema in the past ever. So this will be like the second time. Okay.
Well, enemas are great for people who don't have access to colon hydrotherapy or to do in between. I really promote home enemas, and particularly coffee, because it's good for our liver. It's so good for us. And that is part of I learned about coffee enemas through Charlotte Gerson, through the Gerson therapy. It's a cancer therapy. They have clinics. Dr. Max Gerson, I think it was in the 50s that he started people juicing and his whole program. And of course, he got shut down because it was working.
Oh my gracious.
Way back then.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, natural therapies.
They're amazing.
But there's nowhere to make money off of them like pharma.
Episode 62, Planetary Activation Organization Representatives, which is the PAO, Colleen Marshall and Miles Simon.
Well, my first awakening came when my mother once told me when I was a small boy, I think Christ is a spaceman.
To understand, Sheldon started the PAO, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I read about his passing, which was, he just passed in 2022, correct?
He actually hasn't passed.
Oh, he hasn't passed. Okay.
No, but he's in a convalescent home.
Okay.
Because I couldn't take care of him anymore. The needs were too great. Okay.
Do y'all want to go into, I read up about him, how this started for him and what has happened with him, like an energetic attack, if y'all want to go into any of that, but maybe to say how this started and how y'all, well, obviously how y'all became connected and how you're both very passionate now at continuing and growing this. All right. That might've been a multi-tiered question, but yeah, y'all take it from there.
Okay. So Sheldon was actually contacted ever since he was a little boy. And he went up into the ships and was educated. They would put him in this little chair that then they could put coordinates of any time or space, time or location, and he would go there and be like a fly on the wall and watch it in real time, because everything's happening at the same time, right? It's past, present, and future all happening at the same time because of the outbreath from God. And so he could do that. Well, his favorite was the Constitution. So he wanted to go see when they were signing the Constitution. So that's one of the things where he traveled to. So he had that type of an education. They would tell him, Sheldon could read encyclopedias when he was 5. So they would tell him, go to the library, because remember, no internet yet. Go to the library, read everything you can on, let's say, crystals. Then he would come back and say, okay, I read. And they'd say, okay, here's the real truth. Here's the expanded truth. Here's the spiritual truth. Here, you know, so he never learned everything that we learned about history and everything. He always learned the truth. So he didn't have to unlearn things the way we all have to unlearn and go, oh, it didn't happen that way?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So he had quite the experience. And then when he was around 14, he said, you know, this is just too jarring for me. You need to leave and let me be. And in high school, he was actually doing some college courses and things, because he was a scientist, and he did free energy machines, and he created them way back then, but then it got confiscated. No way are we doing that yet, you know.
Wow, right.
So that was one of the things. And so that was his background. And then they said, okay, we'll leave, but we'll be back in the 80s, because you got a mission, because you're a galactic ambassador representative. So he's like, hey, I stutter. How can I possibly be in front of people? But he kind of got over the stuttering and all, and he was always good around people. But anyway, so that started him. And so the Galactic Federation has been in his life pretty much the whole time. Let's see, what else do we want to say about that, Miles?
Well, a few things that you didn't tell them was that his sister went up with him initially.
Oh, yes.
And the way they
wow.
were summoned to the ships they were little kids in their room, and they saw these moving lights, and they were asked, well, why don't you think of the way you'd like to see our lights move? And I think they created patterns so that they could kind of take part actively in how the lights moved. And I think, didn't Sheldon Colleen say that when he went up into the ships, it was like being in bed and being beamed up in a similar way somehow to Star Trek, something like that. And
they teleported him. He literally physically went. Yeah.
And the other thing that, if I'm not mistaken, he was on a Syrian mothership.
Well, most of his guides are Syrian, so it still had Galactic Federation, which is over 200,000 different types of star beings and star nations. But his particular group was the Syrians, because that's where he's from. He's a Syrian starseed.
Okay, let me stop you guys for just notice some color variations because I made some boo-boos. So I had to come back when it was darker outside. So, episode 82, QHHT hypnotherapist Iain Beaton.
I could talk all day about some of the experiences I've had, but the ones that have been more recent. Yeah. I want to talk about
one or two. Yeah, let's hear.
I really wanted to talk about the one that's relevant today. You know,
awesome.
Because this is a fairly fresh session that I did a couple of weeks ago with a client. And the beautiful thing was that I was at a Mind, Body and Spirit fair back in spring, and I organized this sort of raffle to win a hypnotherapy session. So lo and behold, I run it over into my Facebook page, and people were buying up tickets. And then I did the draw of, I can't remember, about a month ago, whatever. But no, the winner was a previous client of mine, and she'd already done 2 sessions, which are on my YouTube channel, which I've transcribed.
Neat.
My YouTube channel is Iain G. Beaton, for those that are wanting to go there. But yeah, this was her third session that she came for. I was excited. I thought, wow, this is obviously the universe. And she said she muscle tested for the number, because you chose a number. She muscle tested, got the winning number from muscle testing. Kinesiology, for all those that are wanting to explore that. And yeah, she won. And oh my God, what a session we had. So I'll try and keep it brief, because it's epic.
Wow.
So the session unfolds as when my client comes into a memory, and this is part of my technique that I'll use memories, and that memory could be a past life, it could be childhood, whatever, but it just so happened to be that she was in some sort of space, something probably like this backdrop here. But all she could see was this huge white light. And I was like, okay. And I was thinking this was source energy initially, because a lot of people experience that within sessions, that they're going back to source energy. And I thought, okay, but as a practitioner, must never take anything for what it's presented to you. Never take it for granted. So I'm trying to gather as much information as possible. And so it turned out that this was actually a star. And this star had a dark patch to it in the center. And at that point, I was getting quite nervous. And this is where I step in as a practitioner to the safety of the client is paramount. So I ask her to focus on her protection and then just see what happens next. Okay. And what unfolded was that this black center to the star was kind of like an energy that was destroying the star. And she had such a connection to the star that she felt almost like it was family. And it was her role as a being among, well, she then went on to describe herself as a very high density being with no form, just energy. And she was forming with, for lack of a better word, colleagues, I guess, to try and form this membrane around the star to stop this energy from destroying it, anything else. So it was a damage limitation mission that she was on. Unfortunately, she perished in that experience. And then she goes to then meet her council. Her council then told her that she's got other missions that are waiting, other planets that are needing her assistance. So on she goes, she's talking about other stars, white planets, red rocky planets, you name it. We're not getting names as such, but nonetheless, each and every one of them have some sort of event that's happened or happening that's causing them to, for lack of a better word, die.
Right.
So her mission is a planet saver.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
This is her. Has been her soul's journey the entire time. A planet saver. How about that on your resume? So
a lot of people would look at that and go, what is this on your resume? But like us, we'd be like, oh my God, that's so great.
Exactly.
Episode 95, Jason Valenti, Awakened by Sasquatch.
I grew up in Florida. I'd had no interest in Sasquatch, never even heard of it, didn't even know what that name was.
Right.
And so when I had this experience, it was so, because it was so close to us, that if the window would have been rolled down, the guy sitting next to me could have grabbed her right arm. I knew that what I saw was very real. It was a flesh and blood something, but it was just so, it was so big. I'm 6'4", 260 pounds. This thing was at least 7 foot. And, I don't know what her weight would have been, probably between, 400 and 800 pounds. I know that now because of studying their morphology, the way that they're built. But it was so in my face. It just, the whole experience just punched me in the face, knocked me on the ground. And I was, for 2 weeks following this incident,
All right. So how did this happen? Where were you? What was the setting?
It was a total accident. We were lost. We were driving back from Pensacola, Florida in the middle of the night. We left Pensacola at midnight and we were driving on I-10 to Tallahassee. And then we decided to try to go the back roads on the way home instead of taking the highway.
All right. So who's we? Were there 2 of you guys in the car?
Guy Dennis. We were doing the network marketing company together. I was getting into network marketing, back then. So what's so funny about this. And so he had some friends up in Pensacola. So we drove 8 hours one way to get there. And then we
Wow.
left, because we both had families to get back to. And so about 4 a.m., we roll into Pensacola and we make the decision to try to take the back roads. Well, the person I was talking to gave me the instructions, but I couldn't, I was so tired, it's like I couldn't remember what they said. So we're driving on the wrong road as we're leaving the bypass around Pensacola. No, I'm sorry, not Pensacola, Tallahassee. Then we're heading back in the western direction, but I didn't know this. And so about 15 minutes into the drive, the radio stations were going out. Couldn't listen. This is way back when. So I turned off the radio, and just about a few moments later, I looked up down the road, and there's this thing on the side of the road. And I couldn't tell what it was, but my first impression was it was like an Irish setter chasing its tail, because it was like a flurry of hair just like flying around. But it was pretty low, about 3 foot to the ground. I was like, wow, that's a really big dog. In my mind, that's what my mind is thinking. And then when I looked down at my dashboard and flashed my brights were not on. And so when they came on, this flurry of hair just flying around just stopped and fell. And then two red eyes appeared at the top of it. And it was so funny in that instant, I remember seeing Dennis's head, and we both did this at the same time as I had my hands on the steering wheel. We both went like that, like, what? How is there eyes at the top of this hair? And just the placement was strange. And then all of a sudden she just unfolded out of a squat, and she was squatting behind the tip of a tree that had fallen through the forest. And so the tip of it was right up against the road. And our theory was that she must have been like tearing apart a bird's nest or something, getting something out of it. But then she stood up, and then she put her hands in front of her face to block my headlights. And so I started braking hard, like we're rolling up on this creature, and she's completely blinded by my headlights, and she's got her hands in front of her face, and she's stumbling backwards, erect, way bigger than a chimpanzee, way taller than a gorilla. And so as we're coming to a stop, I just remember looking at her and just all this detail. I'm just like, I just can't believe this is happening. I'm like, what am I looking at? And so I had all these details come into my mind, and people can go to YouTube. There's lots of YouTube videos of me on there describing my exciting, which I don't think we need to do that here. But everything about the experience was so impactful, especially what Dennis told me that he saw. He said, and I'll just say this part, this is what was fantastic. And this is how we knew it couldn't have been a human in a suit, because this creature from a standing position went into a full squat, came up off the ground once we passed her, because he put his hands on the window glass and he was looking back at her. He clearly saw her do this, go into a full-blown standing broad jump. And while she was pivoting on her left foot and leaving the ground at a 90-degree twist, as she was flying through the air about 30 feet, she landed in a stride. There's no way you could do that in a costume. First of all, humans are not that strong. And as she was landing, she was in a full-blown stride. And he was in military reconnaissance. He just got out of the Gulf War.
No way.
He went PTSD instantly. I mean, he just freaked out. And I, in my little Pollyanna Christian world, was like, oh, wow, what is this? And I opened up the car door, taking my seatbelt off, pulling my emergency brake. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm going to get a second look, because that was amazing. I mean, did I just see that? So I'm on my way out of the vehicle, and he catches this whole scene, just long enough where she disappears into the black of night, into the forest, and then swings around and grabs me and jerks me back into the truck. And I look at him and I said, come on, man, let's go see this thing. And he just says, no, man, just drive. And that was the last thing that was said between us for 4 hours, until I dropped him off at home. We were just in shock. Yeah.
Episode 89, Light Channeler, Jayme Price. Okay. I know you write in one of your deck, I think is light language written. So sometimes for me, when I don't do it for all my clients, because they're all at different levels. And some I can be like, hey, I don't know what's going to come on. Are you cool if I just do whatever? And they're like, yes. It sometimes I get a little taken aback as to what's coming out of my mouth, and being free with it, and me not being self-conscious with it at all. When you first started, I think I read something you talked about, what people coming in your living room when you first started channeling. Tell me if I have this right, that a party's like, okay, here we go. When all of this first started happening to you, were you self-conscious about it? Are you not self-conscious about it at all anymore? Tell me about that.
Both of those. So when it first started, oh my gosh, it took me years to become comfortable. And that was back in the day before there was YouTube, or it wasn't known, it just was kind of like very on the fringe, actually, and people didn't know much about it. So as it started happening to me, it started smaller for me and in the context of healing. So people were coming over to my house, they would be on the massage table, and I wasn't doing massage at the time, I was doing energy healing, but their eyes were closed and it was signing through my hands. So it was nice and silent, and my guides were talking to me just like they always did when I did energy healing. So that was very pleasant until the sound wanted to start to come out. And then I was so shy and like, oh my gosh, this is so weird, and people are going to think I'm weird, and I can't even be normal anymore. And so it took a long time for me to even become comfortable with that. And so I would generally, most times it was happening all times back then, it was happening in a healing context. It was either me by myself, or I was doing energy healing, or I would go to a channeling or a class or something like that. And now
So
I had
not
to
at the
sit in the
grocery
back.
store, just picking out bananas. Like, here it
Not
comes.
yet.
Oh my. I could say very select times.
Exactly. That used to be always what I said. I mean, it's not, I get to still go to the grocery store like a normal person, but of course I live in Sedona, so it has even happened at the grocery store. But even then, I was talking to a friend and
Oh my
it started
gosh.
happening, and so we're standing across from each other, and I'm like, blah, 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 but I'm just kind of whispering it, and somebody just walks by, doesn't even notice. I'm like, well, there we go. It's Sedona.
Okay, and literally this was at the grocery store?
Yeah. But that was after I was comfortable with it, because it took me years to become comfortable. And I would have these unusual situations, like I would meet someone, or a friend that felt comfortable with it. I had a massage therapist that was working on me, and she always was seeing it, and she's like, I don't know if I'd want to be in public with you like this, though. And I'm like, Shh, I totally understand that. I don't blame you. So it just kind of there was steps along the way to make me more comfortable, until I got the guidance to do a public session, and I invited friends and clients, and they invited friends, and that story is in the book, but it was traumatic and so worth it, because
Wow.
it burst out of me when the first person came up there so strongly
Wow.
that it made that person just have like the kundalini kind of laughter, like the laughter that won't stop, not the laughing at me. I mean, she had already seen it. And then it made a child cry. So I was like,
Gosh.
wow, no one is going to come up here, and I'm just going to be sitting up here, and this is going to be so embarrassing. And everybody did come up, and then afterwards we shared and talked about it, and that was really helpful for me. But the thing that turned the tides was one of my clients came up to me afterwards, and he said, I want a session. When can I get a session? So that was like a Saturday, and we did a session on Monday. And he had already had sessions with me, but I kept it inside. So he sat there, and during that session was when my guides, I was holding it in because that's what I was accustomed to. And they said, it's okay, you can hold it in, but it'll just take him longer to heal. And
Oh,
not because light language is the only way to heal, but because I'm holding myself back now. And
yes.
they gave me all of that time to become comfortable and have positive experiences mostly. And the negative ones were my own mental creations. But here I was at a choice point, and I could not do that. Like, knowing that someone came for a healing session, I could have done more, but I was too shy. So if it wanted to flow, then I would allow it to flow. And I never turned back since then. Well,
Man.
almost, but
Wait a minute. What do you mean?
when I did my first CD, I recorded them, and then I think I had like 3 days before I went back to the recording studio to do all of the editing or whatever. I don't quite remember, mix it with the music or something. And I listened to it once and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
So these
I left
CDs were
corporate,
light language CDs.
light language CDs. I'm like,
Okay.
I have made a choice. I've left corporate. I have moved to Sedona. This sounds so crazy. What am I doing? And I just processed for those next 3 days. And I just needed to go through that final point of, this is so sacred. I felt so called. It is such a passion that even the things that scared me, they are so worth it. And to the point now where, if people make negative comments or they say things about me, I couldn't care less, because I had that lesson as well, where some duo on a internet radio, and this was over 10 years ago now, made fun of me. And so suddenly there I was in my own little YouTube corner. No one really knew about me. And suddenly I started getting all of this negativity. And finally, someone left a comment that said, so and so sent us, and then just left me a little smiley face. And I knew, I could just feel the energy of that. It was like, it was them kind of saying, it's okay. This came for a reason. And I was so grateful for that, because it gave me that exercise of not taking things personally and really making that decision from my own desires. And I understand if people think this is weird, or they don't like it, or they judge me for it, or say, ooh, it's negative. They can have all of those feelings, and they should follow whatever their own discernment says. If it's not for them, go find what's for you. But I know that this is so beautiful and sacred, and it's so healing. It's so loving. I will not suppress that in myself because someone else doesn't understand it. So I'm so grateful for the long journey. And I'm grateful now that I get to help people shorten that journey and open up in community, and recognize that they deserve to shine their light and to express it in the ways that it's coming forth, even if it doesn't make sense to other people.
Episode 83, Soul Matrix's own Steve Noble.
Go on.
How, since you are in the UK and watching America, do you think that America is waking up more than the UK? How would you compare our two segments of the world?
So starseeds that chose to be born in America have chosen the more intense mission. Here in England, I think it's a bit easier, which is why I chose it. I don't know if I could do this mission in America, really, because over here it's a bit kind of calmer. Yes, there are things going on, but by and large, there's not the extreme energies in America. America has a lot of extremes. You have extreme light, and extreme darkness there. You have a lot of souls who are very, very young souls who are like, please wake up, even if it takes 20 lifetimes. Can you please wake up? And there are a lot of, there's a massive amount of starseeds, light teachers, and channels in America, which makes America such a kind of gateway of light. But you are dealing with the kind of center of very dark forces, more than in England. They are here, but in America, they're in your face. They're controlling things. They're pushing you into war. They're doing all. They're for example, America, the land of the free. And when I go to America, I feel much more control in America than in Europe. But it's subtle. Even like food supplies controlled. If I go into an American mall, to find a meal that's not a Wendy's or a something that I feel I can't even eat. That was a bit of a challenge. Of course, you have these organic places, but they're light spots. But by and large, a lot of America, highly controlled, pressurized, squeezed. The current administration adding to that. The last few administrations, of course, adding to that. So I think over here, it's a bit easier for people like me. There's a bit less control, actually, even in terms of finance and taxes. The IRS are on your back, like, boom, they're straight on you. Whereas over here, you have a little bit more space to breathe. So,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. And give me your thoughts on this too. Not being an American, going, whoa, look at it. But from what I understand, the way that American goes, the rest of the world will go. So it is very pivotal for us to do our work and to be the light. Would you agree with that, Steve? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think America is one of those major light points on the planet, and that's why the dark forces are contesting the light at every turn in America. So intense light, intense darkness in America. I had a friend who moved from England to America, and I said, "You're going to have an intense time," and she did. She had a very intense time. Of course, made a lot of lovely friends, had lovely experiences, but had an intense time. Now, America's got some amazing places. Shasta, to me, is one of those 5D ascension points on the planet.
What
Mount Shasta,
what's
up in California, corner of California and Oregon, I think.
Yeah, and
Shasta.
California is really rough with things. So I'm curious, where did your friend move?
She moved San Diego way.
San Diego, okay. So
and down there, lots of healers and everything. But
yes.
So San Francisco, sorry, not San Francisco, Mount Shasta, very enlightened. Sedona, a bit more intense, a bit more heavy because there's a lot of old karmic energies there. But you've got these light points on the planet. You've got places in America where there's a great intensity of starseeds. California, North Carolina, you know, down in LA and San Diego. You've got these kind of light points. I was up in Portland. Portland's got another load of. So they're around, and of course you've got points, which is just like when you go there, it's like, oh my God, where am I? We're in Redneck Central or somewhere, you know. It's a bit like I was in Texas, and because Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, went to Texas for a while. Couldn't be there for long because it was just too dark. People were coming to him, telling me, how do I make loads of money? And it's just like, this is the consciousness. And of course, Texas has light points. I think. Not that. What's that place? There is a light point. They have music festivals there in
Austin.
You have this light point, Austin, but you have these darker points. I think Houston is a bit heavier. I found.
Yes.
And there are points around which are a bit heavier. Yeah. So this is the thing. But interestingly, you have America, which has this intense light and intense darkness. You have the same thing in Eastern Europe and Russia to a different degree. Now, Russia, people look at Russia, and of course, Russia's demonized now. I'm not saying that I like the government or particularly like the way they run the country, but there's a grassroots starseed light coming up. I did a lot of work in countries like Bulgaria, very communist, but the people coming up there's a load of enlightened people there. And I'm like, wow. So you've got the kind of dark system of old communism now entering materialist capitalism. It's a very weird mix. And then you've got all these amazing young starseeds coming up. So, you know, there's lots of different portals, but the dark are facing it in different ways. You know, in America, you've got this kind of capitalist, yes, we can do it, but still dark and heavy in different ways. And over in the communist side, you've got the starseeds coming up and the old structures trying to keep them down. And other places, you know, there are starseeds coming up in places like South Africa, which is a dark country because of what's happened there with apartheid and the new government coming in, which basically I see is pretty corrupt, actually. But in time they will find their way. But this is the contention, isn't it? Old systems have to be dissolved so that it's in line with what the light that's coming up from the grassroots. All the leadership of the planet, practically every single leadership around the planet, is old energy, and it has to go.
Thank you so much. Episode 88, Interstellar Communication, Stewards, and my only recurring guests, Pia and Cullen. I'd like to ask one other animal that you guys think is just that people may not know is such a blessed energy or intelligent energy. Okay, go ahead.
Bears.
That is so funny. I just saw a video about bears. Okay, let me hear y'all's perspective. Wow.
Well,
we've been playing with bears since we were children, both of us, me in the Smoky Mountains in Georgia.
And me in the Sierras in California.
Yeah, we've been playing with bears all of our lives. And when we go to Sequoia National Park, we always spend time with the bears, and we have such a good relationship with them. If we see tourists who are waving sticks or throwing rocks, we pretend we're park rangers and escort them off the property, you know, and take care of the bears. We just do that. And we've had bears actually come up to us, mother bears, sniff us out, deposit their cubs at our feet and go off foraging because they know we'll keep their cubs safe.
Shut up. That's amazing.
We have had not dozens, but hundreds of bear encounters where people who watch us from a distance are frightened to death. They think we're going to be eaten alive. And we simply get quiet. We don't move. We don't speak. And bears know that, number one, we're not afraid of them. Number two, we're not going to hurt them. And we have, honestly, the most incredible encounters with bears.
The last one of the last ones we had most recently, we were out a favorite place and I sat down on a log to watch this group of bear cubs, 3 cubs. And I was sitting on the log and 2 of the cubs were interested in me and they came up and started sniffing my boots. One of them climbed up close to me. The third one wasn't interested at all. Right behind the cubs, here came the mother. She climbed up, lumbered up on the log, and people behind us were afraid I was about to be eaten. And she came right up to me like this. Nose right to my nose. I knew better than to look her in the eyes. You never look a wild animal in the eyes. It's disrespectful. I cast my eyes down and allowed her to sniff me, put my nose there. She sniffed me out thoroughly, got down and grunted something to the cubs and went off. And they then climbed up on the log where she had been and allowed me to touch them and play with them. This is everyday experience for Cullen.
Yeah,
bears are really, really important and special to us.
This is not a fantasy. This is a lifelong experience for us. And from a shamanic point of view, bears are really incredibly wise. They have some ability that their healing energy, their wisdom energy, their spiritual energy. And bears have been revered shamanically by all ancient tribes or groups of original peoples around the world. Wherever there were bears, there was an instant respect for the bear kingdom. And Pia and I I don't know how it happened, maybe because we were children and we just felt a kindred spirit with them, but it's been a lifelong association for us.
We both started playing with bears when we were very, very young.
Okay, two notes that I want to share. Okay, one is personal, but I get very personal on the show. So I start my colonic adventure today. So please watch and listen to the recent show with Shannon Wallace, who is wonderful. She's a detox specialist. So I'm very excited with that. So I'm going 3 times, and 3 times is what she kind of recommended. So I will continue to share about that. Episode 76, Galactical Guru, Debbie Solaris. Because you were talking about, because I think this is really interesting and I think it needs to be talked about, the false reincarnation matrix where Earth souls are being recycled over and over again, never getting to do life reviews, that it has been dismantled. Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, that was a download I got, I think, a few years ago, because I was always wondering why there's still a lot of Earth souls here that just seem very unevolved, like they're star seeds and we're so aware of everything, we're so hyper aware of what's going on, the underlinement, of things that are going on here. And then there's still a lot of asleep people here. And so one time I tapped into the Akashic records and they showed me that a lot of, for thousands of years, Earth souls were just being recycled. They weren't even being processed appropriately in Arcturus, so all souls are supposed to go to Arcturus, which is the gateway of souls, after death, in order to go through a proper life review. And then they go through, and even the Bible talks about this, in Revelations, they talk about, souls going through life reviews, and the Book of Life, which is basically the Akashic records. But these souls were not being processed, and this was happening because, and it was developed by the powers to be on this planet that wanted to keep sucking negative energy off of these souls. So these souls, when they come back, they just go through multiple lifetimes of suffering. And these beings, these dark cabal, or elites, or Illuminati, or whatever you want to call them, they feed off of this negative energy. And it's a way of also maintaining control, because if you're not evolving, if you're not ever given the opportunity to evolve, you're going to continue to stay enslaved in the system, which is what they want, So my understanding is that, I'm not sure who dismantled the false reincarnation matrix, but it has been dismantled, probably
Recently?
by the higher galactic entities or realms. But and now Earth souls do have the opportunity to evolve. I mean, we're probably going to see Earth souls incarnating in Sirius or Pleiades, or because they're going to continue to evolve, and they'll be looking to have new soul experiences in other realities and other star systems and dimensions, which I think is really exciting. Earth is moving towards becoming part of the greater galactic family. It was always meant to be part of the greater galactic family. It's been suppressed for thousands of years. Sadly, it's sad to say, but it's true. But we're now breaking out of that, thanks to all the star seeds that are here doing the work, like me and you.
How long ago do you think this that matrix was broken down? Is it fairly recent?
It was fairly recent. I think
that
the date they gave me was in the 1990s.
Episode 77, self-proclaimed governor of Vermont, Kevin Hoyt.
Need governors. My name's Kevin Hoyt. I'm from Bennington, Vermont. I'm running for governor, but I don't want to govern anybody. How's that for a sales pitch? Because it's the truth.
It's beautiful.
I've been blessed with world travel, and a lot of the people that I've met, my new family, if you will, they've been blessed with world travel too. And I'm seeing a lot of connections, these distinct locations that we've all been to.
Interesting.
I think when we go to Bergen, Norway, is one of them. There's a Stargate there, right? Kate Rains, Huna Flash. I can bring a whole bunch of people. But when you go there, I think you're activated as an individual, and I also think you crack that seal, if you will, so everybody else gets a little more activated. And I can name a dozen places all over the world that a lot of my new friends have all been to, these
so neat
places. And the same with I don't know if you have a near-death experience.
Yes,
most of the people, myself included, I should have died like 10 times, like literally should have died. I don't know why I'm still here, but now I do. Right now I do. In fact, the first time that I had brain surgery, I snuck out of my bedroom.
Me too.
I had a bicycle.
Okay, wait a minute. You're talking about all these. Okay, so my near-death experience was brain surgery as well.
Wow. I ended up hitting the chain on my bicycle, and it gave me a blood clot. So at the time, they gave me a 10% chance of living. I was baptized and gave last rites.
So how old were you?
I was 14.
Okay.
14. And it's funny because at the time, I didn't even realize like how close I came until I was in my late 20s probably. But I remember thinking when 14-year-old Kevin, the first thing when I woke up and came out of the surgery was like, I'm invincible. Like they cannot kill me. Like I am unstoppable, right? And then the other thing was that God had a plan for me. Like I remember thinking that at 14, like God, he's got a plan for me. Like they can't, and how invincible I was. Like I just like that should have killed me, but I made it. 5 years ago, I was in Indonesia, right? Papua New Guinea, the other side of the planet, getting chased by police and government and Muslim extremists. And
oh gosh, this sounds like a whole other story.
My plane was shot down, like literally.
Seriously.
To get on anti-aircraft, crash and burn, kill the pilot. Like this in between dragons and volcanoes. And then when we flee the country, Discovery ended up pulling the plug on the project after our plane got shot down. So we had to get out of country. And literally the government tracks me to the airport. 7 minutes after my plane takes off, Jakarta was hit by a 7.8 earthquake that killed 150,000 people. And I'm flying home telling this story. Like, I'd sit down on the plane next to somebody and go like, you're probably not going to believe me, but this just happened. And I give them this, like, it was incredible. It was really, really incredible. And that was, again, I should have died 4 or 5 times on that one adventure.
Oh my gosh.
But
So this is when you were shooting, you were working for this Discovery Network and shooting something?
Right. I was for that one, I was running freelance camera. Again, I hosted and
Oh,
produced outdoor television,
right.
106 million homes at one time. But that was conservation and kind of, this was more adventure.
Right.
This was,
Episode 86, Dimensional Palmistry Expert, Cynthia Clark.
So I ended up going to the library one day and I picked up a book on palmistry. And that's when I had my deja vu experience. I just felt like I knew the material. I had studied the material before. And then I got this message from Spirit saying, yeah, so hand analysis is a reflection of who you are. It's your mirror to who you are.
Beautiful.
You know, how can that be bad? I mean, it's imprinted on your body. You know, you're a divine being. Like, what could possibly be bad about that?
Well, the devil gave you this hand and gave you these fingerprints. No. Okay. Beautifully stated. Love it. All right.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Yeah. So for me, the hands are a language. And they are a way to understand the language of you. And they reflect back everything about you that you could possibly need to know to guide you on your journey, to assist you on your journey, to be the roadmap for you so that you can live your most authentic and highest potential life. I mean, that's really what it is.
So what, for example, would you share with someone in terms of looking at their palm? Knowing what you've just said, but if you can put that into concrete words, I guess is the best way to say
Yeah,
it.
so there's actually 3 branches to palmistry, and this is what most people don't realize. So there is the lines, which of course most people are familiar with, the lifeline, the headline, the heart line. Most people have heard of those things. Those are changeable. Okay. Your lines actually ebb and flow like rivers of energy, and they mimic the neural pathways of the brain. So I've tracked people now over 15 years, and I've seen changes in people's hands, and some of them are quite dramatic. So we're not stuck in our fate. This represents our free will aspect and how we interact with our environment. So all of that is in the lines, okay? So then there is the hand shape, okay? That's the branch called chirognomy, and that forms on your hands by the time you're about 5 or 6 years old, and that's going to represent your deep subconscious personality archetypes. So when you think about, you know, your hand shape when you're a baby, right? Everybody starts out with little earthy hands. Everybody puts everything in their mouths, right? They're just like, you're absorbing your environment as a baby. And so you're developing your personality. And by the time you're about 5 or 6 years old, you're actually moving out of the subconscious brain states. So they've measured the brain states of babies, and everybody's in delta and theta brain state all the way up until about age 6. And that's when we start to develop the higher brain states of what we would call the conscious mind. And so that's when your hand sets its shape. And then, of course, we have the fingerprints, which are the soul imprint. So those form actually 5 months before birth, and they're fully formed at that point, and they never change. So when you think about being a soul coming into a body, coming into this lifetime, this experience, you came in with a plan, with a roadmap to guide you. And what does your soul want you to experience? And that is what your fingerprints help you to realize. And so there are patterns in the fingerprints, and I read them just like a map. And so when, depending on what finger and what type of fingerprint you have on which finger, that is significant. And this is where the Pleiadians have come in, and they've been starting to teach me about this dermatoglyphic epigenetics. So they told me that not only are the fingerprints your soul roadmap, but they are also portals to your multidimensional reality.
Episode 74, intuitive nutritionalist and high vibe channeler, Christina Becker.
I mean, it's endless. It's magnificent. The freedom that we can achieve, but it's a lot of getting rid of false and old beliefs, which includes family values, cultural values. It's a lot of unpacking we have to do, and it's happening at a very rapid pace. And it's challenging. And I've I have a lot of knowledge around these things by now, because also I'm older.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's still, I still have to remind myself, like, I'm choosing freedom. I'm choosing to be a sovereign being and being connected with my own inner wisdom, my own intuition, with my guides, and make my decisions as much as I can based on that, as I am shedding old programming. And again, body image and the way to eat, etc., is all part of that programming.
And it's not just unpacking one suitcase. There are like thousands of suitcases, and and just like you, I've been doing this for a really long time, and it's going to be different for folks that are coming into the world right now. They're not going to have as many suitcases, yet they're coming into the world as it is right now. It'll be really interesting. There can be a lot, and it's the best thing to start unpacking these things. Like you said, freedom and just sovereignty, and finding if you're a woman, and we all have the divine feminine, male or female. Episode 104, holistic health activator, chef, and energist, Cathy Hohmeyer. Just be practice
today. What can I? Super simple. Can I do one super simple, and then we'll go complex?
Okay.
See this glass right here?
Mm-hmm.
See how it's? I mean, I get into water a lot.
Okay, so let me talk to people who are listening. Cathy's holding up just a glass of water, probably filled about a third of the way.
Yeah. Well, this water is special filter, but we won't go into that part.
Okay.
But so two things with water, because I love water. I'm water element right now in another one, but I love water. So, but one really cool thing is that water holds memory, right? And it also can stay energized. And a lot of us know, we got to drink water, blah, blah, blah. And, get some electrolytes in there too. But if you put your water in, well, I have a ball jar here, in a glass like this, it's basically got square edges, and most all of our glasses are square edges. And we like to have energized water. We know how important water is to drink. If we have a glass like this, it basically falls, I'll just have to do it with my fingers. The water will fall down the sides and give us a torus and keep our liquid energized. So I always try and drink liquids out of this if I can. I actually have a second one up here that's on a foot, but you drink it like that. And if you're going to drink it fast, well, whatever. But if you're, sitting at dinner or whatever, and you have your glass of water or your beverage, I keep it in a glass like this because it is going to keep the energy of the water flowing. Kind of like when you store, the big thing is to store water in an egg-shaped container.
Egg-shaped.
That keeps the energy of the water.
That is so intriguing. All right. So an egg-shaped glass versus a straight glass. Is that the best way to say it? Yeah. Okay. That's a simple one. It's beautiful. All right. Give us some more complex one.
Well, I'll give you a little bit more complex still with water. If you take a Petri dish or a glass dish, here's how you can find out a message from water. Water holds memory, and this is so cool. The first time I did this, the great way to do it is to have a glass Petri dish. You fill it with a little bit of water. You ask it an intention or say, hey, I want to know about whatever. And you freeze it for about 3 minutes. Now, I freeze it outside, so I have to keep checking it. You don't freeze it solid. You freeze it like 3/4 solid. So there's a little bit of a process with it. You freeze it so that when you pick the glass dish up, other petri dish, that some of the water would pour off. But if you hold it up to the light, you will see glyphs. You will see a picture. And I did this when I said, they say that there's a portal on our lake. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I believe that one. I had 2 messages, one from the wind. It came up on my beach and swirled around and took my husband's book. He's working on a book, took his pages and swirled it around and threw it over the trees. It goes, there's your answer for the vortex, okay? Because I still didn't believe. But the first time I did it with water, I said, well, if there's a portal on the lake, show me a picture. And I have a picture of that. But and it showed me what I want to say, I saw kind of mountains on the top and the shore and a triangle in the center. So if you freeze water, you can ask it to show you something. And it's amazing. That's where you will know water. We're connected with water. We're connected because we're all water, right? And any nutrition that you take in is going to be water. They're water-based for the most part. And the consciousness in that alone is in your food. And it's absolutely extraordinary.
So when you saw the trees and that triangle there, that was you?
That was the
place?
portal. That was the portal. I said, show me something about the portal. The same night I did it because I have a labyrinth that is the Avalon pattern, the new energy, Avalon, King Arthur energy coming up right now. So they say. I created a labyrinth out of my property. I said, show me something with King Arthur then. And same night, same water, there's a sword in my water. And yeah, it's incredible.
I had to pull away from the microphone because I laughed really gutturally. Yeah. So awesome, Cathy. Thank you so much. And in terms of getting a glass petri dish, where would you get one?
I mean, online. I looked for some that at the time, it was during COVID, they were really hard to find. But if you just go online and put glass petri dish, you can find it. It really is the best thing to use.
Okay.
You can use plastic ones, but I just found the glass much more, somehow it's much more usable and clear. You can put it up to the light. Veda Austin is the one who created this particular method. And it's amazing. You can find it on Facebook online. But if you want to know the energetics in the water where you are all water and want to work with that, just really simple. Do it do it with your kids, do it with whatever. Go and say, show me something. You can put it on a picture and sometimes it recreates the picture from the water. It is absolutely amazing. And that right there can show you that there's amazingness in water and energy and communication with the elements.
Oh, and one last question. I recently heard, so we've been brought up to know, I guess is the best way of saying that our body is 70% water. And I just heard someone go, no, we're probably 80 to 90% water. And there was something within that I was just like, so much of the truth that we haven't been given. And what do you think of that? Do you think we're more than 70% or where are you within that?
I mean, I just know we are, but that brings up another thing that I want to say kind of about water and the way water flows through us in our interstitium. That's why the one reason that I went towards block therapy, which is working with your fascia. Fascia is our in-between, to me, I'm pretty sure it is, in between, it works with that water element where we're all water in there. That is the transport of energetics, basically the, what I want to say, the meeting point between the energy coming into our body and our blood vessels, I guess, if you want to say it that way for people to understand. That's the midpoint where energy meets matter. And that is our light body flowing through our fascia. And when we can do block therapy or anything else that opens up our fascia, you are opening up the energy pathways to your physical body and opening up that tissue and bringing nutrients and vitamins. So that's where kind of 3D meets energy, and you just open up the tissue in your body for healing. It's really cool stuff.
Oh my God, that is a great ending, which opens the door to so many other ideas and questions. Yet, all right, y'all, so much. So neat. I don't even know how to say. I obviously like hearing this too, because so much of my work is hearing and feeling, where yours is, it's hearing and feeling, but in a different way. So I
and
really,
utilizing and yeah, putting it into action. You need both.
yes, yeah, it was so wonderful. Okay, Cathy, thank you so much. If you can hang on with me just for a moment so we can say our personal goodbyes. All right, anyone put comments, like, subscribe, you know, all that kind of good stuff. Yay. See you in New York State.
Okay. See you. Bye-bye.
Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.